going on, guys? Good afternoon. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Big developing breaking news we brought at you this morning. Of course, it was reported this morning that indeed Richard Arnold, the Manchester United CEO, will be leaving Manchester United by the end of the year, and an announcement was expected to be happening later today. Well, now here we are. Later today has occurred, later today has arrived, and Richard Arnold indeed is stepping down as the Manchester United chief executive. An announcement has been made in the last couple of minutes or so. So be sure to strap in. Click the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. We're going to get into all of this. We're going to get into the statements. We've got a couple from Joel Glazer, we've got a couple from the interim CEO, and we're going to give you a bit of an update as well when it comes to the future plans, maybe why certain people haven't been put in certain positions just yet. Of course, this is just the first domino to fall of the eventual INEOS investment in Manchester United, which is expected to be announced next week, not today. So if you're getting your hopes up or expectations that we're going to get an announcement from Manchester United today or from INEOS today regarding their investment, that's not going to happen today. But again, we're going to bring you all this kind of stuff. So be sure to strap in. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. As I mentioned, this is a developing story. This is a breaking news story. So if you see my eyes darting around all over the place, it's because stuff's coming in and all that kind of stuff. Let's get into Manchester United's statement straight away. We can bring you those quotes, actually the statement in full, the reaction, the statements, all that kind of stuff on the screen right now. So this was the first part of it. It said Richard Arnold has decided to step down as the chief executive of Manchester United after 16 years with the club. The statement then continues by saying Patrick Stewart, no, not that kind. No, we're not going to be getting Professor X at Manchester United. I think we've got enough bold people in charge at the club, to be honest. But it says Patrick Stewart will take over as interim CEO in addition to his existing role as general counsel, with Richard continuing to provide the transitional support until the end of December. A search process will be carried out for a new permanent CEO. So once again, a confirmation there that Richard Arnold is going to be assisting in his duties until the end of December. Obviously, Patrick Stewart's going to be the interim CEO, but Arnold is going to be effectively helping out whilst he transitions out of the club. Of course, end of December is 6 weeks away. Now, we do have some quotes here. One from Joel Glazer, the Manchester United executive co-chairman, who has said the following on Richard Arnold, quote, I would like to thank Richard for his outstanding service to Manchester United over the past 16 years and wish him all the best for his future endeavours. We are fortunate to be able to call on the deep knowledge and experience of Patrick Stewart to provide interim stability and continuity as we embark on a search for a new permanent CEO. Now, the quotes actually continued here from Richard Arnold himself, the outgoing Manchester United CEO. He has said, it has been an incredible privilege to serve this great football club for the past 16 years. Through highs and lows, the constant has been the dedication of our employees and fans. I would like to thank all of them for their loyalty and commitment and wish everyone associated with the club the very best for the future. Now, finally, Patrick Stewart, who is the now interim Manchester United CEO, has also released some quotes saying, together with my leadership team colleagues, my job will be to ensure that the club's foundations remain stable while we embrace changes that can make us stronger over the long term on and off the pitch, and to support the search for a new permanent CEO. Now, some of you may be wondering why is Jean-Claude Blanc not put in? What's the situation with him? Of course, he's the person that has been seemingly earmarked to be taking over as the permanent CEO. He appears to be INEOS's choice. Of course, he left his role at PSG last year to become, was it the CEO of INEOS Sports, something like that? Now, the Muppeteers, who I guess would know when it comes to all of this kind of stuff, have said the way that they understand it is that the INEOS appointments cannot be made until after owners and directors tests are completed, after which Jean-Claude Blanc, as of right now, is the favourite to become the new permanent CEO, and discussions continue regarding sporting directors. Of course, Paul Mitchell has been singled out to be a favourite involved in all of that, but INEOS is certainly focusing on overhauling Manchester United's major sporting structure. So If you're wondering as to why it's a case of Patrick Stewart as the interim CEO and not Jean-Claude Blanc now, it's because they genuinely can't actually put him in right now. You can't appoint someone as CEO, I suppose, once if you're not even technically bought into the club just yet. Technically, I suppose the Glazers could do it, but it's one of those ones, isn't it, where you go, end of the year? Well, Richard Arnold's going to be at the end here till the end of the year. Oh, well, that's terrible. But then you realise the date is November 15th, so the end of the year is about 6 weeks. So realistically, it looks like Patrick Stewart's going to be in for 6 weeks. Now, as I mentioned, just a bit of a confirmation regarding Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe and all that kind of stuff as well. If you're thinking that because today we've got an announcement regarding Richard Arnold and he's stepping down and it's the first real big massive change at Manchester United that we're going to be getting this Ineos announcement today, far from it. Simon Stone has reported from the BBC. He has said an announcement regarding Ineos/Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Manchester United is not expected today. Even when it's done, there will be a 6 to 8 week gap to completion where Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos can't be involved in operational decisions. So this was something that was pointed out actually several weeks ago regarding all of this too, is that yes, if we get an announcement next week, which is when it is expected that this announcement is going to come regarding Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, there are still checks and balances that have to happen. There are still checks that they have to go through, the fit and proper owners test, etc., etc., etc. And because of that, and because of the waiting time and the period that involves, it most likely will be a couple of months, maybe, before they can even get involved in any kind of operational decisions. So we're looking at, again, the end of the year, which is when Richard Arnold leaves, possibly a little bit more than that, so possibly maybe mid-January, towards the end of January, when a new permanent CEO will probably actually be appointed. So this is why Patrick Stewart has been appointed as the interim CEO as well. What was quite interesting as well was a piece that was written by Adam Crafton from The Athletic today, kind of giving a bit of an update as to the background surrounding all of this and all this kind of stuff, and Patrick Stewart coming in and Richard Arnold leaving and all this kind of stuff. So it's absolutely, I think, fascinating, particularly the part when it comes to Richard Arnold throughout this whole process, and Richard Arnold actually where it came to other bidders that were on the table and his thought process and his reaction to Sir Jim Ratcliffe and all this kind of stuff. Now, Richard Arnold holds Class A shares within Manchester United, and he's played a major part in the club's commercial growth. And through his tenure as CEO, one of his big attempts was to try and strengthen the lines of communications with supporters, i.e. being down the pub, burning through cash. We've been there. But what's quite interesting is that actually as a Class A shareholder, Arnold was among those, this comes from The Athletic, among those to push back against an earlier Sir Jim Ratcliffe proposal, which would have rewarded only Class B shareholders, stock held exclusively by the Glazers. And it says here, and a previous difference of board opinion led to friction between the camps. So if you recall, that interview that Flex did with David Hellier from Bloomberg, and at the time Sir Jim Ratcliffe's deal was dead in the water and all this kind of stuff. Richard Arnold was a Class A shareholder, so he would have been those in that group of people that felt that they were essentially being discriminated against if the earliest proposal had gone through. If you recall the timeline, essentially what was said was that Ineos wanted to acquire the Glazers' majority shares, but the minority shareholders, i.e. the Class A shareholders in the club, wrote to the board and said, we feel like we're being excluded from any kind of investment or takeover process. Therefore, if we're being excluded, we believe there's precedent from a legal point of view for us to sue you, to get you involved in litigation, get Manchester United involved in litigation. And because of that, the independent board of directors, whose job is to really kind of look out for some of these minority shareholders, said, well, if that's the case, we could never ever approve of a Sir Jim Ratcliffe takeover. So because of all of that, Ineos felt that they had to pivot, they had to change, they had to restructure their bid, which is where we are right now, where yes, they're acquiring some of the Glazers shares, but they're also acquiring some of the minority shares as well. Everyone is included, the stake is much smaller, but again, the roadmap to a full takeover, we don't know we don't know what that is just yet or anything like that. So again, that's certainly quite significant too, and I think it's quite interesting that they've put that out there too. As far as other changes, look, it's the first domino to fall, so we don't know really what's going to be happening next. John Murtough is someone that's been linked with the move out of the club, certainly, and his job seemingly is going to be up for grabs. Paul Mitchell, as we mentioned, he's currently ultimately responsible for the football department, overseeing the appointment of Erik ten Hag and things of that nature. It's expected more changes are going to be made. It says here in The Athletic, Ratcliffe is expected to make further changes after his minority stake is ratified. So Dave Brailsford, formerly the performance director at British Cycling, is set for a key role, with him and Ratcliffe also weighing up options for a sporting director appointment as well. So certainly a lot going on there. Let me know your thoughts in the chat about all of this. Let me know your reaction to it as well. I'll get your comments up on the screen too. ZZ says, Owen, blink if you love the chat. I don't have to blink. I can tell you myself. I love the chat. Who doesn't love the chat? Lil Yo-Yo says, so you're saying, Owen, that Arnold was always on the chopping block. I think irrespective of all that kind of stuff, he was always on the chopping block. And I think that, regardless of how much he had approved or not approved of the Ineos investment, he was always on the chopping block because he wasn't fit for the job. We spoke this morning, Flex and myself, on the Morning View about people's CVs being appropriate for the role and getting the best in class in. And Richard Arnold is not the best in class CEO to be running Manchester United. He doesn't have the CV, doesn't have the experience. He's been with the club a long time, from the commercial point of view, but for Manchester United to be successful, and us as fans, it's about way more about just commercial. That's been the problem with Manchester United. What did Louis van Gaal say? They're a commercial club, not a football club. There has to be synergy, and there has to be experience of running a successful football club with strong commercial operations. That's realistically what it should be. And Jean-Claude Blanc, look, he's got a very strong CV. It'll be interesting to know if there are any other, CEO people they're possibly looking at, throughout this process. I mean, they did say a lot through those quotes there that they were looking at the search for a permanent CEO, didn't they? They're on the search for that permanent CEO. For me, I kind of look at it as I think everyone knows who that permanent CEO is going to be. Just at the moment, they can't actually say who it's going to be because it's an Ineos appointment. So they've got the interim in Patrick Stewart to bridge that gap, as it were. But John Murtough is going to be next. We can do better. We can do much, much, much better. Now, is better Paul Mitchell? Is it Dougie Friedman who was linked to it? Is it someone else? We'll have to wait and see, but we can do better and we should be doing better. This is just the first domino to fall, but it shouldn't stop there either. I mean, see a lot of people very happy with the news today, which I think is fair because it's good news, because it's change at Manchester United and change is drastically needed, but there has to be way more. And the biggest change has to be that the Glazers eventually leave. And that's really ultimately my biggest point involved in all of this is, are we going to get hope? Are we going to get the light at the end of the tunnel? Is there going to be, whenever this thing is announced next week, I don't really think we're going to be getting full details. I hope so, but I can't see Manchester United releasing a statement, providing those kind of details. It does have to be disclosed publicly because Man United are floated on the New York Stock Exchange. So those kind of details would have to be coming out eventually. But if that hope is there, and I know it's the hope that kills you, and I know it's the hope, and it is hopium, right, and copium, but that's the key thing for me. If we can get to that point where we say that eventually, if it's 2 years, 3, 4, 5, however long it takes, there is a genuine, realistic possibility that over time Ineos can buy out the Glazers, then that's good for me. I'm happy with that. I can live with that, and we can work towards that. But just because we've got rid of Richard Arnold, that's the first step, but the first step of many as well. So that's what it is. Nathan, with a super chat, appreciate you, Nathan, says, Richard Arnold done okay, John Murtough done okay. Have they, though? Have they really? I mean, I will give Richard Arnold credit for the fact that he wasn't Ed Woodward, in the sense of Ed Woodward's leadership philosophy as the Manchester United CEO was, I know everything, I'm not listening to anyone else, I'm involved in transfers. I'm involved in commercial stuff. I'm involved in footballing stuff. I'm just a genius, basically. That's who I am. I'm Ed Woodward. That's what I do. And on my first day, I do an interview by the pitch. We got a blank check. We can buy anyone we want. And then buys Marouane Fellaini in that first transfer window. Oh, great, Ed. You're genius, aren't you? So I give him credit for him not being Ed Woodward. And he was very open with the fact that there's certain things he wasn't an expert on, so he was going to delegate, i.e. John Murtough is responsible for football operations at the club. I give him credit for that, but that's about it. Because, throughout his tenure, it still has been shambolic. I mean, what's been going on at Manchester United. I get certain aspects are out of his control, and with the review of strategic alternatives, that's directed by the owners and the co-chairman and stuff like that. I get it. I understand that, but you look at the handling of the Mason Greenwood situation. I mentioned this in the video that went out earlier today when the news was broken by Mark Kleiman from Sky News, that wherever you sit on that, whether whatever you think about the incident, I think everyone can universally agree that was handled absolutely terribly in terms of the final stages and the final moments involved in all of that. With the stuff leaking out, with people not being consulted, with employees threatening to go on strike, and then, a statement coming out saying, oh, what the media said is not true, and then a statement a few days later with the final decision. It was just a giant mess. Giant mess involved in everything when it came to that whole Mason Greenwood situation. When it's come to a variety of other stuff as well. I mean, we were Statements FC earlier this year, right? So that's all happened under Richard Arnold's watch. It's not his fault, some of those things. He can't ultimately control the actions of others. But Manchester United's handling of involved in all of that has not been good. And that's been part of his responsibility. So, it's not as if his tenure has been completely spotless or perfect and he gets a free pass or anything like that. He just doesn't. Absolutely doesn't at all. And again, as I said, we can do better. We can do better. He is still part of the Woodward class. It's still mates rates, jobs for the boys. He's been there for 16 years, done well on, the commercial stuff, but Manchester United is still rotted during his tenure there. Again, not all on him, but he's part of it. You need to cut everything completely out. So good that he's going. The replacement, the appointment is key. Who's going to replace him? Looks like it's going to be Jean-Claude Blanc, and John Murtough and others will have to be next as well. That is the cold hard facts of the situation. Even looking at some of his early days as the United boss. I mean, the fact that when he was last year, when people came to his house, which is not my, I don't agree with that. People showing up where people live, and he felt the need to sort of meet them at the pub because they were coming to his house, which I think that's too far. But that whole situation once again was farcical. I mean, the CEO, the chief executive officer of a ginormous company that is worth, on the New York Stock Exchange, certainly, was it 3.5? It's got a market cap of 3.5 billion quid. Is sat in the pub being filmed with supporters. He's bought pints for people and talking about burning through cash. I walk into Carrington and I can't see, where's the cash? We burnt through effing cash, mate. We burnt through cash. That is madness. That is an absolute madness. Certainly not how a club the size of Manchester United should be operating and running. It's a farce. Like, it is a giant farce and embarrassment. It's nuts. So Man United need and have to have better. And it's not even necessarily stand. That's how if Man United is to succeed, then those kind of changes are critical. The biggest being the ownership. That's just how it is. I see Araya saying in the chat about all of the statements. We read the statements out at the beginning of the stream, so if you do want to check those out, just go backwards a little bit. We'll read them out once again in just a second. Nathan says, "Oh, Owen, you didn't read it in Judge's voice." Thing is, I don't know if I can say that Richard Arnold and John Murtough have done okay, though. I think if I'm going to press the button, they need to have genuinely done okay. Because could you really say that John Murtough's done okay? I mean, if you want to look at John Murtough's legacy at Manchester United, he was, and this is why United are so backwards as well, because So he was involved, obviously, in the decision to sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He was there then. He was also involved in the decision to bring in Ralf Rangnick as the interim, right? So bringing him in as the interim, obviously on the pitch, it didn't work out, but people were excited to see him being involved in a consultancy position, and then we never saw Ralf Rangnick again. He got sacked from being an interim and a consultant, or paid off. He was responsible for bringing in Erik ten Hag. Good decision, but he was also involved in some of the transfer strategy as well. And you look at last summer's transfers, spending a lot of money to the point where now FFP was struggling. He also couldn't get people out of the door very well. It's exactly the same as Ed Woodward in the ability to sell players. Manchester United can't sell players, and exactly the same really as Ed Woodward in terms of overpaying for players as well. So there's been no real difference or anything like that. There's been no real upgrade in with John Murtough in terms of transfer or recruitment or football operations. There's been restructuring internally in terms of positions at Manchester United. But has there been any change? No. We can do better. There are better options out there. There is better people, more experienced, more qualified people. It's staggering, isn't it, at points at Manchester United, how people can have this high-ranking, high-quality, important, critical positions at the club, and you look at them and you go, okay, what's their qualifications for being in that position? And sometimes it's just they've been around for a while, or they've known that they know the right person. They go, what have they done in their career to get them to that point? Well, they've been around for a bit. And I think with John Murtough too is, I think that, look, Manchester United fans, we can be quite impatient, and I put myself in this as well. But it's not as if people didn't give John Murtough a chance as well. I think people gave John Murtough a couple of transfer windows, and we look where we are now, and we go, like, what? What are we doing? What are we doing? But it must be stressed. John Murtough's future has not been decided today or anything like that. It's just Richard Arnold. Once again, we'll go through the quotes, actually, as more people start to file in. If you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right-hand corner. As I said, there's going to be lots of news coming surrounding this, regarding this. Definitely over today, tomorrow, and as we head into next week with that announcement regarding Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe set to be announced next week. We are going to be getting Flex's reaction today as well, so stay tuned for that. Siren! Why don't we have the Owen siren in the chat at the moment? I know it's been made as well. I know I was there when it was created. And it's still not in there at the moment. Someone say it's a disgrace. It is a disgrace. If you're watching, Josh, I said remove the porridge one and put the Owen siren in. We need it. The chat needs it. They want it. They want it desperately. They want it. And I think we need something like 15 or 20 more members so we can add more emojis. So if you haven't already, be sure to join the members club as well. Let's go into the quotes once again if you are just joining us. So, as I mentioned, Manchester United released a statement about 38 minutes ago saying Richard Arnold has decided to step down as chief executive of Manchester United after 16 years with the club. Patrick Stewart, no, not that kind, will take over as interim CEO in addition to his existing role as general counsel, with Richard continuing to provide transitional support until the end of December. A search process will be carried out for a new permanent CEO. Joel Glazer, the Manchester United executive co-chairman, said, "I would like to thank Richard for his outstanding service to Manchester United over the past 16 years and wish him all the best for his future endeavours. We are fortunate to be able to call on the deep knowledge and experience of Patrick Stewart to provide interim stability and continuity as we embark on a search for a new permanent CEO." Richard Arnold, the outgoing Manchester United CEO, said it's been an incredible privilege to serve this great football club for the past 16 years. Through highs and lows, the constant has been the dedication of our employees and fans. I would like to thank all of them for their loyalty and commitment and wish everyone associated with the club the very best for the future. Patrick Stewart, which probably I think a lot of people will probably be seeing here, says, "Together with my leadership team colleagues, my job will be to ensure that the club's foundations remain stable while we embrace changes that can make us stronger over the long term, on and off the pitch, and to support the search for a new permanent CEO." So Indeed, that is the quotes in question from Manchester United as well. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat as well. I'll get some of your comments up on the screen. Are you happy with the news? Thoughts on the news? Are you still, okay, it's the first decision, but there needs to be more as well. What are your thoughts on all of it as well? Let me just double check as well, see if we've got any more updates from social media as well. Again, whenever it's the case with this kind of stuff, you get more stuff starts to come out and all this kind of stuff. This is quite an interesting tweet here from Henry Winter, who lots of people know. He's obviously a journalist for The Times. He has said, and so the transition begins at Manchester United. CEO Richard Arnold leaving on, quote, good terms and with thanks of the club, especially with the commercial work, Adidas deal, etc. Worked hard, well-meaning, but not in David Gill's league. The slide was painfully evident on the pitch. And must be stressed, that's not just Richard Arnold. That's largely Ed Woodward. He was the direct replacement and direct successor to David Gill. But he's also said Patrick Stewart's interim appointment as CEO gives Sir Jim Ratcliffe time to identify the right long-term choice as chief executive. Stewart is respected and experienced, the club's general counsel, and leads their liaison with UEFA, FA, Premier League, ECA and PFA. Sensible short-term move. Changing leaders on the executive is all very well and needed, but the main change has to come higher up with the owners. Until the Glazers are gone, Manchester United cannot rediscover their identity, being united with their fans, creating a great, exciting, committed team, and letting the brand and deals follow that. Ratcliffe's 25% has to be a step towards the eventual exit of the Glazers, otherwise many of the problems and protests remain. So I largely agree with what Henry Winter was saying there when it comes to that. I mean, like I said, when he's sort of saying, you know, this Richard Arnold's gone, the slide after David Gill was evident, that's not just him. It must be stressed. That's not just him. That's largely Ed Woodward and what he, I can't even say attempted to do, decided to do, didn't do in the, how long was he the CEO of Manchester United for? He came in, what was he, 6 years? 7 years? Something like that, I think. Awful. Absolutely awful. I mean, I could carry on for a long time about that. What's the chat saying at the moment? Mark Andrew Paul says, all the executives need to be shown the door at United. Chris said, but the media told us all last week it was going to be Tuesday guaranteed. Now it's next week. Joke thing this is. I'll believe it when I see it, not listen to the British media. I think in fairness, this is the thing. It depends who you listen to, I would say, Chris, because when it comes to that, there were quite reputable people that said it was the Sun, right? We call it Air. It was the Sun and maybe some others that said Sir Jim Ratcliffe's going to be in charge on Monday. He's going to be in charge on Monday, and then you get the reaction of going, well, he's not going to be in charge on Monday because Monday is Sir Bobby Charlton's funeral, and that's best case scenario in terms of this week. Most likely, it's going to be the week after next. So I think, in fairness, and don't get me wrong, throughout the entirety of this process, the media have been crazy with the flip-flopping and back and forth, but the general sentiment has always been it's going to be not this week, the next week. They did say towards the end of November. We're halfway through. A lot of people have always been saying next week. Now, chances, will I be shocked if I'm sat here this time next week and I'm saying, well, latest reports are it's not happening until the end of December? No, I will not be surprised by that because I remember doing things saying that it was going to be by Easter, and we're nearly at the end of the year at this point. So I will not be shocked by anything when it comes to all that. But the general consensus does seem to be, and the fact that the CEO has officially left or is officially leaving Manchester United does suggest that this one is close to actually happening now, because, you know, those kind of big changes. I mean, I know sometimes we sort of, you know, we hear names, we go, Richard Arnold's leaving, and we go, cool. But when you do take a step back, the chief executive officer leaving a multi-billion-pound organization, that's a big deal. Like that's a big. Am I back? Ask the question. Am I back? I believe I am back. I don't know what's going on. Virgin Media, disgrace. Absolute disgrace. And it's always when I'm making a good point as well. Always. Always. Do you know what it is? I don't even think it's an internet thing. I think it's just the thing I'm doing, because it will say like, it will get the red light, and then it goes, there's a bit here that says drop frames or anything like that, right? And then it'll come back on, you'll be like, you had no drop frames. Well, you said I did a second ago. What's going on here? And this whole time I was connected to the internet. I don't know. YouTube recently has been bugging out for a lot of people, a lot of people on a variety of streams. Like yesterday, and I'd recommend checking it out because it's working now. But the EAFC stream was being a bit buggy for people. And then I noticed that even when you tried to watch it afterwards, it was like a bit weird. But now it's fine. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with YouTube at the moment. It's maybe as disorganized as Manchester United. I don't even know. The point I was making, though, to circle back to Richard Arnold, was that the CEO of any organization leaving is a big story. It's a major news story. These are very, very, very important people within that world, within that business. So for the CEO of a multi-billion-pound organization like Manchester United to be leaving, that's a big deal as well. That's got big ramifications. And a step that big would not be made without the acknowledgement that something big is certainly happening. Something big is happening, and we're on the verge of this big announcement, which, as I mentioned, is expected to be next week as well. So changes afoot at Manchester United, but it's also not going to be completely immediate as well. This is why I've also mentioned this morning on the Morning View as well, that when it comes to people expecting January madness, or by January we're going to be operating really like a big football club again. We're going to be buying players, and we're going to be selling players, and it's going to be huge change. Not to put a dampener on it, but don't expect big, significant, sweeping transfer business or anything like that in the January transfer window. And a lot of people have already reported at this point that FFP still grips Manchester United. Jadon Sancho likely to leave in January. The most likely outcome for him is going to be a loan, maybe an obligation to buy, something like that. But if these people might not even be fully in their roles by this point. If you're going to try and track the timeline here, so they're saying Patrick Stewart's the new interim CEO. Richard Arnold's going to be assisting him till the end of the year. So December 31st or January 1st, he's gone. Now, the Ineos stuff is going to be announced, they think, next week. But even so, there's then a 6 to 8 week process where they have to go through the director's tests, all that kind of stuff. So they can't do anything for 6 to 8 weeks anyway. So let's say it's 2 months. Worst case scenario, it's 2 months. These people that they want to bring in, Jean-Claude Blanc, Paul Mitchell, all that kind of stuff, they might not be even involved or in their role at Manchester United until February, after the January transfer window anyway. So January, not a lot can happen. They said that maybe there might be scope there to bring in like a backup striker for Rasmus Højlund, which they want to do. So that could be a possibility. It depends, I think, how much sort of the Saudi window are willing to help us out when it comes to people that they're going to be putting offers in for and all of that. But these big people that are going to be making these big changes on the football side of things might not even actually be in their role until late January, early February. So realistically, you're then looking at the summer. The big sort of sweeping change in terms of just transfers or stuff on the pitch, it looks to be like, for me already, and this isn't to write off the season, because I don't think we should or anything like that, but that kind of uncertainty above them is going to kind of remain there for a little while anyway. And hopefully we'll start to see more dividends in terms of how we operate in the transfer market, how we operate in terms of getting rid of players and all that kind of stuff. We start to see that in the summer. And the annoying thing with that, of course, is that we had hoped that this was going to be sorted before the beginning of this season. And realistically, we're now saying again, well, actually, it's going to be in place for the start of next season, next summer's transfer window, which again is just par for the course. Everything's delayed at Manchester United. Everything's very slow. But this is good news. It's not surprising news because, well, it is and it isn't, isn't it? Because when you see all of these reports, like we have seen for the past, month or so, 6 weeks, something like that, Richard Arnold's job's under threat and John Murtough's going to go and all this kind of stuff. But you sort of go, well, that's cool. But you do have the mindset a little bit of, well, let's see. Because it's Man United and we have heard these things before. So when Mark Kleinman tweeted earlier on, exclusive, Richard Arnold set to leave Man United and an announcement's coming today, you went, oh shit, like it's happening. Oh my God. Like Michael Scott in The Office, it's happening, stay calm, everybody stay calm. And then once the announcement does come, you go, oh, I guess this thing is actually happening. This investment is actually happening. But it would be just like Man United for Patrick Stewart to be this interim CEO till like the end of the year, or January, February, until Ineos can actually make the changes. And then suddenly it goes, there's been a bit of a delay. Patrick's going to stick around for a while in that interim CEO. Hey, just a little bit. It's not. We thought things. There was a little delay. There was a little delay in something. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, Murto, clearly he's not going to be going anywhere till next year anyway. And as I mentioned, because of the upcoming winter transfer window and all that kind of stuff, I would assume that he would be operating as business as usual. The Man United recruitment department would be operating as business as usual. The Man United footballing department would be operating as business as usual. Because even if there's been a discussion with him like, Jim Ratcliffe's going to come in, there's going to be a football committee and all this kind of stuff, and he'd probably know. He's probably not naive enough not to see the writing on the wall regarding his future. It might just be a case of, but I'm still going to be in this role until probably past the winter transfer window, so I guess I'm just going to keep doing my job, and if we can get some people through the door, we can. If we can try and sell some people, we can, and that's just about it. And it must be incredibly frustrating. I mean, imagine you're Erik ten Hag in this situation as well. Going to John Murto, going, so what's the situation for January? Can we bring anyone in? Can we sell some people? What's going on? We can try, but I don't know if I'm going to be here. I don't know how long I'm going to be here for. And I don't know, Man United at the moment are operating without, and I know you can argue they've never operated with a long-term vision, but as of right now, we are operating with no long-term vision at all. We are genuinely going week to week, month to month, I guess just, window to window, with the hope that we can eventually, eventually it's going to get sorted. Eventually there's going to be some continuity. Eventually, Ineos are going to be in and all this stuff's going to be sorted. But as of right now, there is no long-term strategy. There is no long-term plan, or unless that's been effectively communicated down to Erik ten Hag, and I doubt it has, because things aren't technically confirmed at this point. That's very difficult to operate in. That's very, very challenging to operate in. When you're going what's the long-term plan for the team? I don't even know the long-term plan for the club at the moment. I don't even know the long-term plan for the business right now. So I can't tell you. I don't know. So there's a level of uncertainty. Andreas puts it there. We've been driftwood for almost 20 years. That's kind of what United's like at the moment. Throughout this entire, takeover, investment, whatever you want to call it, strategic alternatives process, we just sort of drifted. And that's where United are at the moment. And for a manager looking to establish a long-term plan or have his team play a certain way in a couple of seasons, all this kind of stuff, that's very difficult when you know that the business and you know that the strategy is not defined. The strategy is, as Andreas mentions there, just drifting. That's very, very challenging. And the quicker that can be addressed, the quicker that those people can get into the positions and, the deal can be ratified and all that kind of stuff, the better. That's what's most important, because as of right now, United are drifting. And these are difficult. And when you are drifting, you driftwood in choppy waters. Who knows what's going to happen to you? You're going to have some rough moments. It's going to get pretty choppy in those in those waters that you drifted in. So the quicker that all of that can get done, the better, certainly. Big up Minna in the chat. Posts the Minna emoji there as well. Be sure to check out Minna's channel. Played KG yesterday. Flex isn't here now, so I can actually talk about what happened yesterday. I watched the game. Obviously, you would have seen it was heavily hyped. Minna versus KG, best of 3. KG won the first one, Minna won the second one, and then comfortably won the third. KG, the comedian, was, I thought he were poor, lad. And he was. He was very poor. Minna played well, very well. I think, in fairness as well to Minna, I think nerves got her in the first game. If you ever happen to play Minna at EAFC, my recommendation would be play as Bayern Munich. Seemingly she can't beat, just can't beat Minna, I don't think. Minna can't beat, Bayern Munich. Just the Harry Kane-ness, that's the kryptonite for Minna. But it was very enjoyable. So if you haven't already, go check out her channel there as well. Minna also says, Owen, I need a WWE belt for my next appearance in the studio. You can, well, it depends what kind of quality you want. A high quality one's going to cost you a little bit of money. You can get like a low quality one, which is fairly cheap though, as well. I'm sure we can figure something out and just stick something on the center plate, something like that. We could do something like that. It's out. JB says using City is an absolute disgrace. Did she use City in the end yesterday? Is that what Minna did? Because I was kind of multitasking at the time. I saw the outcome and I watched that. Did Minna use City? I have a feeling that she might have. If that's the case.
Oh, sorry.
Honestly, I feel sick. That's how I feel. I feel sick. Disgrace. That's what it is. A disgrace.
Flex is here as well, so I've spoiled it for him. Well, you know, tough shit, basically, Flex. Yeah. You know, you can't just be silent in the chat and all this kind of stuff. And I gave ample time. I said Flex isn't here. You know, tune out. I'm just still kind of reeling from that second part as well. You know, she used City for the second game.
It's embarrassing. I'm sorry. Embarrassing.
I take it all back. KG was robbed. KG was robbed. I think there needs to be an inquiry. VAR. Broke my white microphone. VAR. No victory. VAR. Robbery. VAR. Well, actually. VAR.
Disgrace. That's what it is. A disgrace.
That's the official VAR decision. Nah, it's just wrong. And KG, I think he's training now. He's preparing.
You better watch out, because we are come for you.
That's my message to Minna. For what she did. For the crime she has perpetrated with that. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. Not good enough. Not good enough. I've lost track of where I was going with that. But if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As I mentioned, we're going to be getting Flex's reaction to all of this as well. There's going to be a Flex's view, a reflection on the news about Richard Arnold today and him stepping down from his position as Manchester United's CEO, as well as all that. We did do a morning view as well this morning, so be sure to check that out. As you can see on the screen right there, FC24, speaking of the game, with Flex and KG, is out. The new version, Co-op Seasons, was out yesterday. That was very good. I very much enjoyed that, and it looks like quite a lot of you did as well. So if you haven't checked that out, be sure to check it out. That's going to be the format moving forward every Tuesday. So very excited about that. And stay tuned. Click the notification bells, because I'm sure it means Man United. So just when you think you're going to get a quiet day, quiet in the international break, no chance. Not gonna happen at all. So if anything else breaks, of course, we'll be live. We'll be covering it. And again, stay tuned for Flex's reaction coming up later today. I'm out of here. Have a good Wednesday. Peace.